We start with a report from Malta, which has had its holiday problems over the past few years. To find out how these are being resolved, Anneka Rice flew to the Mediterranean island. It takes just over 3 hours from London. She looked at self-catering at St Paul's Bay and also visited the island of Gozo. She starts, though, in one of the world's most historic ports.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Malta's capital, Valletta, and a sightseeing cruise makes the tourist round of the Grand Harbour.
My name is Cambry, and I will be your guide throughout the harbour cruise. Today
the guides tell the story of one of the most fought-over ports in the world. For 400 years, Malta has been in the thick of it, conquered, besieged and bombed, but never ignored. It's only when it comes to holidays that history is given a twist.
For the last few years, holidaymakers have been staying away in their droves. From a peak in 1980, their numbers fell by 250,000, that's just over a third. And the figures for the all-important British visitors, well, they were even worse. They dropped by more than a half.
Now the tourists are coming back. So what has Malta done to repair the damage? And what does the holidaymaker find when he gets here? Well, the British should find a welcome. Everyone speaks English, they drive on the left, and restaurants have even been told their food is too English. Valletta's War Museum shows why the bonds are so strong. Here is the debris of battle, the wreck of a Spitfire, Eisenhower's Jeep, and the Gloucester Gladiator Faith of the trio Faith, Hope and Charity, and the George Cross awarded to Malta in 1942. There have been long periods in the island's history when Malta never got out of armour. In 1565, it was besieged by the Turks. That was when it was occupied by the Knights of St John, a sort of medieval A-team devoted to fighting the infidel. Malta was built by the knights. Their palaces and fortifications are everywhere. Valletta today is pretty much as they made it. It's not a pretty city. It's full of history and character and little streets tipping down to the waterfront between houses bug-eyed with balconies, but no one could call it lovely. Much the same could be said for the buses. They're historic and characterful too. Medina dominates the south of the island. Fortified by the Arabs 1,000 years ago, it used to be the capital. It's known as the Silent City because about the only vehicles allowed inside the walls are doctors on call, priests, and the horse-drawn Malta cabs or carrozzini. Much of Malta is no more than a rubble of dusty stone. Pale villages rise from the land, each with a church more magnificent than the last. The parish church at Mosta has a dome bigger than St Paul's. The prettiest places are the fishing villages. Marsashlok, with its boats called Lutzi, is the biggest. It doesn't seem yet to have heard that there are tourists on the island. There are places that have, though. Slima is the biggest resort and the closest Malta gets to Spanish-style commercialism with its hotels paraded behind the rock beach. The little creek of St Julian's is more chic with some good fish restaurants and pizzerias overlooking the harbour. Maliha is a village with another enormous church at the back of a long inlet. Beneath it is one of the few big sandy beaches. It's the closest beach to St Paul's Bay, another small, unspoilt village. It was off here that the Apostle Paul was shipwrecked in the year 60. In another move to bring down the cost of holidays on the island, British package companies now get a much better exchange rate when they buy up their beds for the season. Air Malta's cheapest return fare is from Heathrow, £135 now, rising to £155 in the summer. You can't depart on a Friday or a weekend, and you must stay at least a week. Malta may not have the variety of nightlife of some other holiday places, but there's no shortage of things to see and do by day.
See the fig trees out there?
There's the trip to the Blue Grotto. A fleet of 60 small boats run by the local fishermen operate year-round to take people peering into the limestone caves in the south of the island. Some of the most fascinating tours are to the island's prehistoric sites. At the pagan temple of Tarshin, great blocks of stone were perfectly fitted to make the temple rooms. They were almost certainly rolled into position on the rock balls which still litter the site. The altar on which animals were sacrificed has survived, and so has the base of a statue which must originally have been at least 9 feet tall. To the north is Malta's sister island, Gozo. It's half an hour by ferry, which in high season gets as jam-packed as a rush hour bus. Gozo is smaller, greener and sleepier than Malta. The main town, Rabat, known as Victoria in the old days, squats on a hill in the centre of the island. The walled citadel contains the cathedral, and above it a viewpoint from which you can look out almost over the entire island across the dry farmland. For me, Gozo is summed up by the village of Schlendi. It's a resort in miniature, a little quayside at the end of a rocky inlet with just a couple of bars and a gift shop. The crowds all vanish with the 5 o'clock ferry, leaving Gozo and Schlendi to themselves.
And now that they're pegging their prices and raising their standards, Malta looks to be back in business.